The rain had started 3 hours ago, turning the alley behind Giovanni's into a slick mirror of neon and shadows. I could hear it drumming against the dumpsters, smell the wet asphalt mixing with garlic and tomato sauce seeping from the kitchen vents. My feet ached. 12 hours on them today, double shift because Maria called in sick again. I didn't complain. I needed every dollar. I pushed through the back door, the heavy metal groaning on its hinges, and stepped into the familiar chaos of the restaurant kitchen. Heat hit me first, then noise, pots clanging, Giuseppe shouting orders in Italian, the sizzle of something expensive hitting a hot pan. I tied my apron with practiced efficiency, tucking a loose strand of dark hair behind my ear. "You're late," Giuseppe barked, not looking up from his station. 2 minutes, I muttered, grabbing my order pad. He grunted. That was as close to forgiveness as I'd get. Giovanni's wasn't just any restaurant. It was the restaurant. The kind of place where men in $1,000 suits came to discuss things that never appeared in contracts. I'd worked here for 8 months, long enough to know which tables to avoid, which conversations to forget the moment I walked away. The pay was good. Better than good. That's why I stayed, why I swallowed my questions and kept my head down. I pushed through the swinging doors into the dining room, and the atmosphere changed instantly. Soft lighting, murmured conversations, the clink of crystal. Everything here whispered money and danger in equal measure. Table 7 needed water. Table 3 wanted their bill. Table 9. I froze. Table 9 was occupied tonight. I'd heard the whispers, of course. The staff always knew when he was coming. The air itself seemed to change, becoming heavier, charged with something I couldn't name. Extra security appeared at the doors. Giuseppe's hands shook just slightly as he plated dishes with even more care than usual. Dante Moretti. I'd never seen him up close. He always sat in the private section, surrounded by men who looked like they'd been carved from granite. But tonight, something was different. Tonight, his usual booth was being cleaned, and they'd seated him at table 9, right in my section. My heart kicked against my ribs. "Move, Lily," Maria hissed, suddenly beside me. When had she arrived? He doesn't like to be kept waiting. I forced my feet forward, water pitcher in hand. Don't look at his face, I told myself. Pour the water. Take the order. Walk away. But I looked. I couldn't help it. He was younger than I expected, maybe 35, though his eyes looked older. Dark hair, perfectly styled. A charcoal suit that probably cost more than 6 months of my rent. But it was his presence that struck me hardest, like standing too close to a fire. Dangerous. Consuming. 2 men flanked him, both watching the room with the cold efficiency of predators. I approached the table, my hand steadier than I felt. "Good evening. Can I start you with McKellen 25? Neat." His voice was quiet, almost soft. Somehow that made it worse. "For the table." Not a request. Never a request. Of course. I poured his water, focusing on keeping my hand from trembling. The glass filled perfectly. Small victories. As I turned to leave, one of his men, the one with a scar bisecting his left eyebrow, leaned forward. "Boss, about the shipment, not here." 2 words, barely above a whisper. The man went silent immediately. I walked away, feeling eyes on my back. Not his eyes, surely. Men like Dante Moretti didn't notice girls like me. I was furniture, part of the scenery, as invisible as the wallpaper. The next hour passed in a blur of orders and fake smiles. I brought them their scotch, the entire bottle, which Marco retrieved from the locked cabinet with reverent hands. I delivered their food, artfully arranged plates that Giuseppe himself had prepared. Through it all, I kept my eyes down, my movements efficient. But I felt him. God help me. I felt his presence like a physical thing, pulling at something deep in my chest. It was near closing time when everything changed. I was clearing table 12 when I heard it. A sound that didn't belong in Giovanni's carefully curated atmosphere. Small feet running, a child's desperate breathing. A little girl burst through the main entrance, no more than 5 years old. Her pink dress muddy and torn. Her dark curls were plastered to her face with rain, and her eyes, wide with terror, swept the restaurant frantically. "He's coming!" she screamed, her voice raw. He's coming! Please!" The restaurant went silent. Even the kitchen noise seemed to dim. Then those terrified eyes found Table 9, found him, and she ran. Everyone moved at once. His security stepped forward, hands moving toward weapons I couldn't see. Giuseppe rushed from the kitchen, but the little girl was faster, driven by pure desperation. She ran straight to Dante Moretti and threw herself against his legs, tiny hands fisting in his expensive suit pants. "Uncle Dante." The words came out in gasping sobs. "He's coming! He's gonna hurt Mama! Please, Uncle Dante, you have to stop him!" The entire restaurant held its breath. I watched, frozen with my tray of dirty dishes, as something shifted in Dante Moretti's face. The cold mask cracked, just for a moment, and what I saw underneath made my throat tight. Rage. Pure, incandescent rage, but controlled, banked like coals waiting for oxygen. He stood in one fluid motion, and suddenly he seemed bigger, more dangerous than before. His hands, large, marked with scars I'd noticed when he'd signed his check, came down gently on the little girl's shoulders. "Isabella." His voice was still quiet, but there was steel underneath now. "Where's your mother?" "Home. He came home and he was angry and Mama told me to run, and I remembered you said if I ever needed help." She was crying harder now, words tumbling over each other. "Please, Uncle Dante, he's gonna hurt her like last time," and he was already moving, one hand pulling out his phone, the other keeping the child close. His men flanked him immediately, all pretense of casual dining abandoned. "Lorenzo," he snapped into the phone, striding toward the door. "Get everyone to the Castellano house. Now. Full team. If Marco fucking touches her..." He stopped abruptly, right in front of where I stood like an idiot, still holding my tray. His eyes met mine for the first time. Really met them, and I forgot how to breathe. They were dark, almost black in the low light, and in them I saw violence and protection warring for dominance. "You," he said, and I realized he was talking to me. "You have a car." I nodded, not trusting my voice. "Where do you live?" What? The question didn't make sense. Where do you live? Each word precise, controlled. Behind that control I could feel fury building like a storm. "Maple Street. The apartments near, 20 minutes from the Castellano house." He turned to one of his men. "Marco's probably watching my cars. He'll run if he sees them coming." Then back to me, those dark eyes pinning me in place. "I need your car. Name your price." I don't want money." The words came out before I could stop them. I looked at Isabella, still pressed against his side, trembling and terrified. I thought of my own childhood, of locked doors and muffled screaming. "Just help her. Please." Something flickered across his face, too quick to read. "Giuseppe," he called, not looking away from me. "She's done for the night. Paid in full, plus double." "Sir, Get your keys." Not a request. Never a request. My hands moved on autopilot, setting down the tray, untying my apron, grabbing my purse from the back. This was insane. This was dangerous. This was... "Lily Mitchell," Giuseppe said quietly as I passed him, his weathered face grave. "Be careful. They don't forget debts." I didn't understand what he meant, not then. Outside, the rain had intensified into a downpour. My car, a 15-year-old Honda with a dent in the passenger door, sat in the back lot like a joke beside the black SUVs that had materialized around us. Security everywhere now, men with earpieces and bulges under their jackets. "That one," I said, pointing with shaking hands. Dante Moretti looked at my car, then at me. For a moment, I thought I saw the corner of his mouth twitch. Amusement or disbelief, I couldn't tell. "Keys." He held out his hand. I dropped them into his palm, our fingers brushing for a heartbeat. His skin was warm, calloused. The touch sent electricity up my arm. "Lorenzo, take Isabella to the safe house. Stay with her." He lifted the little girl, and she clung to him with desperate trust. "Uncle Dante will fix this, Piccolina. I promise. You'll save Mama? Always." He kissed her forehead, then handed her to the man called Lorenzo, who held her with surprising gentleness for someone built like a tank. Then Dante turned to me, and I saw decision crystallize in his eyes. A decision I didn't understand yet, but would change everything. You're coming with me. What? No, Your car. Your keys. That makes you my responsibility until I return it. He was already moving toward my Honda, expecting me to follow. And I don't leave liabilities unattended. I'm not a liability, I protested, even as my feet carried me after him. You're a witness to family business. That makes you involved. He opened the driver's door, slid into my worn seat like he belonged there. Get in, or stand in the rain. Your choice. It wasn't a choice. We both knew it. I ran around to the passenger side, yanking open the door and throwing myself into the seat. Water dripped from my hair onto my uniform, but I barely noticed. My heart was pounding so hard I could feel it in my throat. Dante started the engine. It sputtered twice before catching, and I wanted to die of embarrassment, and pulled out of the lot with surprising ease for a man who probably hadn't driven himself anywhere in years. Seatbelt, he said quietly. I fumbled with it, my hands shaking. From cold or fear or adrenaline, I couldn't tell. We drove in tense silence for maybe 3 minutes before I found my voice. What's happening? Who's Marco? His jaw tightened. The only sign of the rage I knew was burning beneath that controlled surface. My cousin's husband. Piece of shit who thinks his fists make him strong. The words came out flat, emotionless, which somehow made them more terrifying. Isabella's father. Oh God. The last time he touched Sophia, Isabella's mother, he put her in the hospital for 3 days. His hands tightened on the steering wheel, knuckles going white. She wouldn't press charges, wouldn't leave him. Said she loved him. Maybe she's scared, I whispered, thinking of things I'd tried hard to forget. Sometimes leaving is more dangerous than staying. He glanced at me then, something sharp and assessing in that look. You sound like you know. I didn't answer. Some stories didn't need telling. We turned onto Castellano Street, and I recognized the neighborhood. Old money. Big houses set back from the road behind iron gates. Sophia had married well, at least on paper. When we get there, Dante said, his voice dropping even lower, you stay in the car. Doors locked. If anyone approaches who isn't me or one of my men, you drive away. Understand? But this isn't negotiable, Lily. The way he said my name, like he'd plucked it from the air and claimed it, made something flutter in my chest. What's about to happen? You don't want to see it. He pulled up 3 houses down, killed the engine, and sat there for a moment in the darkness, rain hammering the roof. I could see his profile in the glow of the streetlights, sharp and beautiful and deadly. Thank you, he said quietly, for the car. For not asking questions. Will she be okay? Sophia? His hand moved to the door handle. By the time I'm done, Marco won't ever hurt anyone again. The promise in those words made my blood run cold and hot simultaneously. He opened the door, rain immediately soaking his expensive suit. Before he left, he turned back one more time. Lock the doors, Lily. Don't open them for anyone but me. Then he was gone, moving through the rain like a shadow, and I was alone in my car outside a house where violence was about to unfold. My heart racing and my hands shaking and some deep, terrified part of me whispering that I'd just made a choice I could never take back. Through the rain-streaked windshield, I watched him approach the house. Watched 3 more shadows materialize from nowhere to join him. Watched him try the door, locked, then say something that made one of his men step forward with something small and metallic. The door opened. They went inside. I locked my doors with trembling fingers and waited, counting my heartbeats, wondering what the hell I'd gotten myself into, and why some twisted part of me wanted to follow him into that house instead of driving away like any sane person would. Inside, I heard shouting. A woman's scream. Then nothing. The silence was somehow worse. The minutes crawled by like hours. I sat in my car, engine off, watching rain cascade down the windshield and turn the world into a watercolor painting of darkness and distant streetlights. My hands hadn't stopped shaking. I gripped the steering wheel like it could anchor me to reality, to the normal life I'd had an hour ago when my biggest concern was sore feet and rent money. That life felt like it belonged to someone else now. I jumped when my phone buzzed. A text from Giuseppe. You okay? I stared at the screen, thumbs hovering. Was I okay? I was sitting outside a house where a mafia boss, because that's what Dante Moretti was, I wasn't naive enough to pretend otherwise, was doing God knows what to a man who beat his wife. I'd given him my car keys like it was the most natural thing in the world. I'd looked into those dark eyes and felt something shift inside me, some recognition I didn't understand. I'm fine. I typed back. The lie felt heavy. Movement at the house caught my attention. The front door opened, spilling warm light onto the wet porch. A woman emerged first, Sophia. It had to be. Wrapped in a blanket, supported by one of Dante's men. Even from this distance, I could see the bruise darkening her cheek, the way she held her ribs. Then Dante appeared, his suit jacket gone, white shirt plastered to his body by rain. He was talking on his phone, gesturing with sharp, controlled movements. Behind him, 2 more men emerged, dragging something between them. Not something, someone. Marco was alive. I could see him struggling weakly, but barely. His face was a mess of blood, and he was making sounds I could hear even through the closed car windows. Whimpering, begging. I should have looked away, should have closed my eyes, turned my head, pretended I hadn't seen, but I couldn't. I watched as they loaded Marco into one of the black SUVs that had appeared while I wasn't paying attention. Watched Sophia get guided into another vehicle, gentle hands helping her. Watched Dante stand in the rain, phone pressed to his ear, water streaming down his face as he issued orders I couldn't hear. Then his eyes found my car, found me. Even across the distance, through the rain and darkness, I felt the weight of that gaze. He said something to the man beside him, then started walking toward me. My heart kicked into overdrive. He knocked on the window, one knuckle, surprisingly gentle. I hit the unlock button before my brain could engage, and he slid into the passenger seat, bringing cold and rain and the scent of expensive cologne mixed with something metallic that made my stomach turn. Blood. He smelled like blood. You should have driven away, he said quietly, not looking at me. His hands rested on his thighs, and I could see his knuckles were split, bleeding sluggishly. You told me to wait. I told you to drive if anyone approached who wasn't me or my men. He turned then, and the intensity in his eyes stole my breath. You saw what happened. It wasn't a question. I saw you take out trash, I said, surprising myself with the steadiness of my voice. That's all. Something flickered across his face. Surprise, maybe, or assessment. He studied me like I was a puzzle he couldn't quite solve, his dark eyes tracking over my face with an intensity that made my skin prickle. Most people would be horrified. Most people didn't see that little girl's face when she ran in screaming for help. I met his gaze, refusing to back down, even though every instinct screamed at me to lower my eyes, to submit. Most people didn't grow up with locked doors and muffled screaming. The words hung between us, heavy with implications I hadn't meant to share. His eyes sharpened, understanding dawning. Your father? He asked, voice soft. Stepfather. A long time ago. I forced myself to look away, out at the rain. Is Sophia okay? She will be. I'm taking her and Isabella somewhere safe. Somewhere Marco will never find them. He paused, and I felt rather than saw him still watching me. He won't be looking for anyone after tonight. I should have asked what that meant, should have demanded details. Instead, I just nodded, accepting it, and wondered when I'd become the kind of person who could sit next to violence and feel nothing but grim satisfaction. I need to return your car, Dante said after a moment, but not tonight. Tonight, my driver will take you home. Tomorrow, I'll have it delivered to you personally, with a full tank and whatever repairs it needs. It needs everything, Lily. The corner of his mouth lifted, not quite a smile, but close. That check engine light has probably been on for 6 months. Despite everything, I almost laughed. 8 months. Christo? He shook his head, something almost fond in the gesture. You shouldn't be driving that death trap. It's what I can afford. The words came out sharper than I intended, edged with defensiveness. His expression shifted, that assessing look returning. I'm not judging you. I grew up in a neighborhood where cars like this were luxuries. He reached for the door handle, then paused. Thank you. For tonight. For helping Isabella. For not asking questions I can't answer. Will I see you again? The question escaped before I could stop it, and I immediately wanted to take it back. What was wrong with me? This man was dangerous. This man had just brutalized someone, possibly killed them. I should be running, not wondering about second meetings. He looked at me for a long moment, something dark and complicated moving behind his eyes. Yes, he said finally, and it sounded like a promise and a threat. Whether that's good or bad for you, I don't know yet. But yes, Lily Mitchell, you'll see me again. Then he was gone, leaving me alone with the scent of his cologne and the memory of split knuckles and dark eyes that saw too much. A different man appeared at my window, older, with gray at his temples and kind eyes that didn't match his dangerous profession. He gestured politely, and I understood. My ride home. I gathered my purse, locked my car, absurd, really, leaving it here, and followed him to one of the black SUVs. The interior smelled like leather and money. He drove in silence, professional and distant, and I was grateful. I didn't have words for what had just happened. When we pulled up outside my apartment building, a 4-story walk-up in a neighborhood that was trying hard not to be called a slum, I felt the weight of the contrast. This SUV probably cost more than my entire building. Miss Mitchell, the driver said as I reached for the door. Mr. Moretti wanted me to give you this. He handed me a business card, heavy stock, embossed lettering. Just a name and a phone number, no title, no address, nothing that could be traced. If you need anything, he continued, or if anyone bothers you about tonight, you call that number. Understood? I took the card with numb fingers. Okay, he protects what's his, the driver said, and something in his tone made me look up sharply. And whether you know it yet or not, you're under his protection now. That means something in this city. I climbed out of the SUV and watched it drive away, the card burning like a brand in my palm. I didn't sleep that night. I lay in my narrow bed, staring at the water-stained ceiling, listening to my neighbor's television through walls thin as paper. The card sat on my nightstand, white against the scratched wood, impossible to ignore. You're under his protection now. What did that mean? What had I agreed to by handing over my keys, by staying in that car, by meeting his eyes and not looking away? When dawn finally came, gray and reluctant through my curtained window, I dragged myself to the shower and stood under lukewarm water until it ran cold. I had the day off, a rare gift, but I couldn't settle. I cleaned my already clean apartment, made coffee I didn't drink, checked my phone obsessively for messages that didn't come. At 2 p.m, someone knocked on my door. I checked the peephole and saw him. Dante Moretti stood in my dingy hallway like a prince visiting a peasant's cottage, looking impossibly out of place in another perfect suit, navy this time, with a white shirt open at the collar. No tie. No guards visible, though I'd bet money they were nearby. My hands shook as I unlocked the deadbolts. Hi, I said stupidly, because what else do you say to a mob boss at your door? Hi. His eyes swept past me, taking in my apartment in one quick assessment. I saw it through his perspective, the threadbare couch from Goodwill, the rickety table, the kitchen barely bigger than a closet. Can I come in? I stepped back, and he entered my world like a storm, making everything seem smaller, shabbier. He moved to the window, looking down at the street where my Honda sat at the curb, gleaming like it had just rolled off the showroom floor. You had it detailed, I said, throat tight. I had it rebuilt. New engine, new transmission, new everything you couldn't see. He turned to face me, and the intensity was back, that weight that made breathing difficult. The exterior I left mostly alone. Didn't think you'd appreciate driving something that screamed money. I can't accept that. It's too much. It's done. The title's in your name, parked legally, registered and insured for the next 2 years. He pulled an envelope from his jacket, set it on my coffee table. Keys. Registration. And payment for your help last night. I told you I didn't want $10,000. He said it like it was nothing. Pocket change. For the inconvenience and the risk, the room tilted. That's insane. That's insulting, actually. You should be getting twice that, but I figured you'd argue if I went higher. He moved closer, and I found myself backing up until my shoulders hit the wall. He stopped just short of crowding me, giving me space but filling my vision completely. You put yourself in danger last night. You witnessed things that could get you killed if you talked to the wrong people. You helped my family without hesitation. That has value, Lily. I didn't do it for money. I know. His hand came up, and I stopped breathing as he tucked a strand of hair behind my ear, the same gesture I'd done myself last night in the restaurant kitchen a lifetime ago. That's what makes you interesting. His touch was gentle, almost reverent, but I felt the leashed violence underneath. This man had destroyed another human being with these hands less than 24 hours ago. I should have been terrified. Instead, heat pooled low in my belly, my skin tingling where his fingers had brushed. You should stay away from me, I whispered. I'm nobody. I'm just a waitress with a broken car and too much debt. I don't belong in your world. No, he agreed, his voice dropping to something dark and rough. You don't. You're too good for it. Too soft. Too breakable. His thumb traced my jawline and I shivered. I should walk away. Should let you go back to your normal life and forget you ever saw me. But I barely recognized my own voice. But I can't. The admission seemed to cost him something. I've thought about nothing but you since last night. Those eyes, that defiance, the way you looked at me like I was human instead of monster. His hand dropped away, and I felt the loss like a physical ache. I came here to return your car and pay my debt. I should leave now, but Christo, Lily, I don't want to. The confession hung between us, raw and dangerous. Then don't, I heard myself say, and watched his control crack just slightly. You don't know what you're asking, maybe not. But I know what I felt last night. I know I haven't stopped thinking about you either. I know this is probably the worst decision I've ever made. I stepped forward, closing the distance he'd left between us. And I'm making it anyway. His hands came up to frame my face, and for a heartbeat, we just stood there, breathing each other's air, balanced on a knife's edge. If we do this, he said quietly, everything changes. I don't do casual, Lily. I don't do temporary. What's mine stays mine, and I protect what's mine with everything I have. Is that supposed to scare me away? Yes. It should, I admitted, tilting my face up to his, but it doesn't. He kissed me then, not gentle, not tentative, but consuming. His mouth claimed mine with possessive certainty, and I melted into it, into him, letting the heat burn away every rational thought. His hand slid into my hair, angling my head for deeper access, and I gripped his jacket like I was drowning and he was air. When we finally broke apart, we were both breathing hard, foreheads pressed together. Christo, he muttered, and I felt the word vibrate through his chest. You're going to ruin me, or you'll ruin me. Never. The vow was fierce, absolute. I'll destroy anyone who tries to hurt you. I'll burn the city down before I let anything touch you. Do you understand? You're under my protection now, permanently. Mine to guard. Mine too. His phone rang, shattering the moment. He cursed in Italian, pulling it from his pocket and checking the screen. Whatever he saw there made his expression harden. I have to take this. He pressed one more quick, hard kiss to my lips. Don't go anywhere. I'll be right back. He stepped into my tiny hallway, and I heard his voice drop to that deadly quiet tone. What? When? How many? No, lock down everything. I'm on my way. He came back, and I saw it immediately. The shift from the man who'd kissed me to the boss who'd dragged Marco from that house. I have to go. Business. He cupped my face again, thumbs stroking my cheekbones. Have dinner with me tomorrow night. Let me do this properly. Okay. I'll send a car at 7. Wear something nice. He kissed my forehead, my nose, my lips, quick touches like he was memorizing me. And Lily? Keep that card with my number close. If anything happens, anything at all, you call me immediately. Promise me. I promise. One more kiss, deeper this time. Then he was gone, leaving my apartment feeling empty and cold. I touched my lips, still feeling the pressure of his mouth, and wondered what the hell I'd just agreed to. On the table, the envelope sat waiting. I opened it with shaking hands and stared at the check inside. $10,000. And a note in bold, slashing handwriting. This doesn't cover half of what you're worth to me. D. I sank onto my couch, check clutched in my hand, and tried to remember how to breathe. The next 24 hours passed in a fog of nervous energy and surreal disbelief. I deposited the check, watching the bank teller's eyes widen at the amount, and felt like an imposter, like someone would burst in at any moment and accuse me of fraud. But the money was real. The rebuilt car sitting outside my apartment was real. The business card burning a hole in my wallet was real. Dante Moretti was real. I called in sick to work, unable to face Giuseppe's knowing eyes or the restaurant where this had all started. Instead, I did something I hadn't done in years. I went shopping. Not at the thrift stores where I usually hunted for deals, but at an actual boutique in the nice part of town where the saleswoman looked at me like I didn't belong until I pulled out my new debit card. The dress I chose was simple, deep emerald green, fitted but not tight, falling just above my knee. It cost more than a week's wages at Giovanni's, and I felt guilty and exhilarated in equal measure as I handed over my card. "Special occasion?" the saleswoman asked, her attitude warming considerably now that she knew I could pay. "Dinner," I said, and thought, with a man who could probably buy this entire store without blinking. At 6:30 that evening, I stood in front of my bathroom mirror. The lighting was terrible, fluorescent and harsh, and barely recognized myself. The dress transformed me from invisible waitress to someone who might belong on Dante's arm. I'd done my makeup carefully, curled my dark hair so it fell in waves past my shoulders, but my hands shook as I applied lipstick, and my eyes in the mirror looked scared. "What are you doing?" my reflection seemed to ask. "This man is dangerous. This world is dangerous. You should run." But I thought of his hands cradling my face, the way he'd looked at me like I was something precious, the fierce protectiveness in his voice when he'd said mine, and I knew I wouldn't run, couldn't run. Whatever this was between us, I needed to see it through. At exactly 7 o'clock, someone knocked. Not Dante this time, but the gray-haired driver from before. Lorenzo, I remembered. He smiled when I opened the door, something warm and almost paternal in his expression. "Miss Mitchell, you look beautiful." "Thank you." I grabbed my purse, a cheap thing that didn't match the dress, but it was all I had. Does he usually do this? Send cars for women? Lorenzo's smile faded into something more serious. "In the 15 years I've worked for Mr. Moretti, I've never once been sent to pick up a woman for a personal dinner. Business associates, yes. Family, of course. But this?" He gestured to the SUV waiting at the curb. "This is a first." I didn't know if that made me feel better or worse. The drive took us out of my neighborhood, through downtown and into the hills where the city's elite lived behind gates and security systems. We pulled up to a restaurant I'd only seen in magazines, Celestine, the kind of place where you needed reservations months in advance and a mortgage payment just to cover appetizers. Lorenzo opened my door, offering his hand to help me out. "He's waiting inside, private room." Of course it was private. Men like Dante didn't eat where people could watch them, could listen, could take pictures for tabloids or police files. The maitre d' was expecting me. He led me through the main dining room, all crystal and candlelight and hushed conversations, to a door in the back. He knocked twice, then opened it, and there was Dante. He stood by the window overlooking the city lights, a glass of wine in his hand, wearing a black suit that looked like sin and temptation tailored into cloth. When he turned and saw me, something blazed in his eyes that made my knees weak. "Lily." My name on his lips was a prayer and a curse. "Cristo, you're stunning. Thank you for dinner," I managed, suddenly feeling like all my careful preparation was inadequate. "This place is overpriced and pretentious." He crossed to me in 3 strides, taking my hand and pressing a kiss to my knuckles that sent heat racing through my veins. "But it's quiet and secure, and I wanted somewhere worthy of you. I'm just a waitress. I don't need—" "You are not just anything." His voice went hard, and I realized this was a point of contention for him. "Don't diminish yourself. Not to me, not to anyone." He led me to the table, pulled out my chair with old-world courtesy that seemed at odds with the violence I knew he was capable of. A waiter appeared. Discreet, professional, disappearing after taking our order without really seeing us. "How was your day?" Dante asked, settling across from me, and the normalcy of the question made me laugh. "Surreal. I deposited enough money to pay off half my debts, drove a car that actually starts on the first try, and bought a dress I'll probably only wear once." I met his eyes. "How was yours?" "I dealt with a shipment problem, mediated a territorial dispute, and spent 4 hours in meetings that should have taken one." He took a sip of wine. "And thought about you constantly through all of it. The admission shouldn't have thrilled me like it did. You barely know me. I know you're brave. You ran toward danger when Isabella needed help, not away from it." He leaned forward, elbows on the table, intense focus making me feel like the only person in the world. "I know you're proud. You didn't want my money, even though you clearly need it. I know you understand violence and fear, but you're not broken by them. And I know that when I touch you, you don't flinch." Should I flinch? Most people do. They sense what I am, what I'm capable of, and something in them recoils. His eyes searched mine, but not you. "Why is that, Lily?" I thought about lying, deflecting. But something about this man demanded honesty, because I've already seen the worst of what men can do. My stepfather made sure of that. I wrapped my hands around my wine glass, needing something to hold. He was a mean drunk who liked to use his fists. For 8 years, I watched my mother try to love him into being better. It never worked. He just got worse. Where is he now? Dead. Heart attack when I was 16. I saw something savage flash across Dante's face. Satisfaction, maybe, or regret that he hadn't been there to make it slower. My mother died 2 years later, cancer. I think she just gave up, once she didn't have him to worry about anymore. "So you've been alone since you were 18. Alone is easier than being afraid in your own home." He reached across the table, capturing my hand in his. His grip was warm, solid, anchoring. "You'll never be afraid in any home of mine. I swear it on my life." The vow hung between us, weighted with meaning I was only beginning to understand. Our food arrived, beautifully plated dishes I couldn't have named if my life depended on it. We ate and talked, and gradually the conversation shifted to easier topics. He told me about growing up in Brooklyn, about his father's restaurant, where he'd learned business wasn't always about money, but about respect and fear in equal measure. I told him about the community college classes I'd been taking online, the degree in psychology I was working toward, one painful course at a time. "Why psychology?" he asked, genuinely curious. "Because I want to understand why people hurt each other. Why some people become monsters and others don't, even when they have every reason to." I paused. "And maybe because I want to help people who are trapped like my mother was." "You have a good heart, Lily Mitchell." He said it like it was a wonderful and terrible thing. "It's going to get you in trouble in my world." "Your world," I echoed. "Tell me about it. The real version, not whatever sanitized story you think I need." He studied me for a long moment, weighing something. Then he leaned back, and I saw the boss emerge, the man who commanded empires built on shadows and blood. "I run most of the organized operations in this city: protection, logistics, certain entertainment ventures. I inherited the position from my father 5 years ago, along with all the enemies and debts that came with it." His voice was matter-of-fact, no apology or pride. "It's not glamorous. It's politics and violence and constant chess games where the pieces are people's lives. I've killed men, Lily. I've ordered deaths. I've done things that would make you sick if you knew the details. And Sophia? Isabella?" His expression softened marginally. "My cousin's daughter and granddaughter. Sophia married Marco against family advice. She thought love could change him. It couldn't. But our family protects our own, and she's under my protection now. Marco was warned multiple times. He didn't listen. What happened to him? The truth. He's alive. Barely. He's in a hospital 3 states away with a new identity, new face, and very explicit instructions about what happens if he ever comes near Sophia or Isabella again." Dante's smile was cold. He'll spend the rest of his life looking over his shoulder, remembering what happens when you touch what's mine. The possessiveness in that last word made my pulse quicken. "Why are you telling me all this? You could have lied." made yourself seem cleaner. Because if we do this, if you choose to be part of my life, you need to know what you're getting into. I won't lie to you, Lily. I won't pretend I'm something I'm not. He leaned forward again, capturing my gaze. But I will protect you with everything I have. I will give you anything you want, and I will kill anyone who tries to hurt you. That's who I am. That's what I offer. If it's too much, if it's too dark, I'll have Lorenzo drive you home right now, and you'll never hear from me again. My throat was tight. And if I stay, then you're mine. Completely. I don't share, Lily. I don't do casual. You would be under my protection, part of my life. And that comes with dangers and luxuries in equal measure. His intensity was almost painful. I would want you to move from that apartment to somewhere safe. I would want you to let me help you finish your degree without worrying about work. I would want Christo. I would want everything. Your time, your attention, your body, your heart. Is that too much? Yes, I whispered. It's insane. It's too fast. We barely know each other. I know. He stood, moving around the table to crouch beside my chair, taking both my hands in his. But I've never felt this before. This need to possess someone so completely, it terrifies me. The moment you looked at me in that restaurant, something shifted. Like recognizing something I didn't know I'd been looking for. I touched his face, feeling the slight stubble on his jaw, the heat of his skin. This is crazy. Probably. I should say no. Should run back to my safe, boring life. You should. His hands tightened on mine, but you won't. Because you feel it too, don't you? This pull between us. I did. God help me, I did. It was terrifying and exhilarating and completely insane, but I felt it. This magnetic draw toward a man who should have been my worst nightmare, but instead felt like something I'd been missing my entire life. If I say yes, I said slowly, I have conditions. Interest sparked in his eyes. Tell me. I keep working. Maybe not at Giovanni's, but I need something that's mine. I won't be kept like a pet. I saw him about to argue and pressed my fingers to his lips. I need purpose, Dante. I need to feel useful. He kissed my fingers, nodded. What else? Honesty. You don't lie to me, even when the truth is ugly. Even when you think it will hurt me. Done. Though I may not be able to tell you everything. Some things are too dangerous for you to know. I understand. I took a breath. And I want to go slow. I know you said you don't do casual, and that's fine, but I need time to adjust to all of this. To you. Something flickered in his expression. Disappointment, maybe, or frustration, but he nodded. How slow? I don't know. Slow enough that I don't lose myself completely. He stood, pulling me up with him, and suddenly we were pressed together, his hands on my waist, my palms flat against his chest where I could feel his heart racing. I'll give you slow, he murmured against my hair, but Lily, understand this. Every day, every hour, I'm going to be thinking about claiming you completely. About making you so thoroughly mine that you forget what life was like before me. I'll wait because you asked me to, but don't doubt for a second that I want you. All of you. Starting right now. Then he kissed me. And slow seemed like the most impossible thing in the world. His mouth was demanding, possessive. And I kissed him back with equal fervor. My fingers tangling in his hair, my body arching into his. He backed me against the wall. When had we moved? And his hand slid down to my hips, gripping hard enough to leave marks I'd feel tomorrow. A knock on the door broke us apart, both breathing hard. Cosa? Dante barked, irritation clear in his voice. Sir, I apologize. Lorenzo's voice carefully neutral. But we have a situation. Angelo called. It's urgent. Dante cursed in Italian, resting his forehead against mine. Timing is shit. I'm sorry, it's okay. Go handle your business. Come with me. It wasn't quite a request. Not to the meeting. That's too dangerous. But back to my place. Wait for me there. Please. I should have said no. Should have insisted Lorenzo take me home, back to my safe apartment and my ordinary life. But I found myself nodding, and Dante's relieved smile made my chest tight. Good. He kissed me once more, quick and hard. This isn't finished, Lily. Not by a long shot. We left through a back entrance. Of course, there was a back entrance. And climbed into the waiting SUV. Lorenzo drove in tense silence while Dante made call after call, his voice sharp with authority. I caught enough to understand something had gone wrong. Someone had overstepped, and consequences were coming. We pulled up to a building in the financial district, all glass and steel and money. The penthouse, naturally. Lorenzo rode the elevator up with us, and Dante gave him instructions in rapid Italian that I couldn't follow. The apartment was stunning, floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city, modern furniture that looked uncomfortable, but probably cost more than my car, art on the walls that might have been originals. But it felt cold, unlived in. More showpiece than home. Make yourself comfortable, Dante said, already moving toward what I assumed was his office. There's food in the kitchen, wine in the bar. I shouldn't be more than an hour, Dante. I caught his hand as he passed. Be careful. He looked at me like I'd said something profound, then cupped my face and kissed me with bruising intensity. No one has told me to be careful in years. They're all too afraid of me. Well, I'm not. I know. It's terrifying. He smiled, quick and genuine. Wait for me, Tesoro. I'll be back soon. Then he was gone, and I was alone in a mobster's penthouse, wondering how my life had become something out of a novel in less than 48 hours. I wandered through Dante's apartment like a ghost, afraid to touch anything, hyper-aware that I didn't belong in this world of marble countertops and designer everything. The living room opened onto a terrace, because of course it did, and I stepped outside, letting the cool night air wash over me. The city sprawled below, a carpet of lights that seemed to go on forever. Somewhere down there was my neighborhood, my tiny apartment, the life I'd built from nothing. It felt like another universe now, impossibly distant from this glass tower and the dangerous man who'd claimed it as his kingdom. My phone buzzed. A text from Giuseppe. You didn't come to work. Everything okay? I stared at the screen, trying to formulate an answer that wasn't a complete lie. Finally, I typed, I'm fine. Just needed a personal day. See you tomorrow. Except I probably wouldn't see him tomorrow. Or the day after. Something fundamental had shifted, and I couldn't go back to pretending I was just a waitress serving pasta to men in expensive suits. You look lost. I spun around to find a woman standing in the doorway, late 20s, dark hair pulled into a severe bun, wearing all black like she was dressed for a funeral or a heist. She held herself like a weapon, all controlled grace and coiled danger. I'm waiting for Dante, I stammered, instinctively taking a step back. I know who you are. Lily Mitchell, 24, works at Giovanni's, drives a rebuilt Honda, lives alone. She rattled off the facts like reading a grocery list. Born in Pennsylvania, moved here after your mother died, no criminal record, no family, no significant relationships. Her eyes, cold, assessing, swept over me. You're his new project. The word stung. I'm not a project. No? She moved onto the terrace, and I noticed she carried herself like someone trained to kill. Then what are you? His girlfriend? His lover? You think you're the first woman he's brought into this world? Jealousy flared hot and ugly in my chest. Who are you? Gabriella. I run security for the Moretti family. She leaned against the railing, and moonlight caught the gun holstered at her hip. And before you ask, no. I've never slept with him. Dante doesn't mix business and pleasure. At least he didn't until you. Why are you telling me this? Because someone needs to give you the reality check he won't. Gabriella's expression wasn't cruel exactly, but it wasn't kind either. You seem like a nice girl, Lily. Probably too nice for this life. So let me be clear. Being with Dante means you're a target. Every enemy he's ever made will see you as leverage. Every rival family will consider kidnapping you. Every cop looking to flip someone will try to use you. My hands tightened on the railing. He said he'd protect me, and he will. Dante protects what's his with psychotic devotion. She paused. But that protection comes with a price. You'll live in a gilded cage, always watched, never truly free. Every friend you make will be vetted. Every place you go will require security. Your entire life will revolve around keeping you safe from the consequences of loving him. You're trying to scare me away. I'm trying to prepare you." Gabriella's voice softened fractionally. "I've seen what happens to civilians who get pulled into this world unprepared. Some adapt, most break. The ones who break, it's not pretty. Why do you care? Because Dante's been different since he met you. Distracted. That kind of distraction gets people killed in our business." She turned to face me fully, and because despite everything, I like him. He's a good boss, treats his people fairly, has a code he actually lives by. If you're going to be part of his life, I need to know you won't be a liability. Before I could respond, I heard the elevator. Gabriella straightened immediately, her whole demeanor shifting from conversational to professional. Dante emerged onto the terrace, and I saw tension in the set of his shoulders, the tightness around his eyes. The meeting hadn't gone well. "Gabriella," he said, voice clipped. "Report? Perimeter secure. No unusual activity. Miss Mitchell and I were just getting acquainted." She glanced at me, something almost like approval in her eyes. She didn't run screaming, so that's promising. "Get out." The words were soft but absolute. Gabriella nodded and disappeared without another word, leaving us alone under the stars. Dante came to me immediately, pulling me into his arms with a desperation that surprised me. He buried his face in my hair, breathing deep, and I felt the tension slowly drain from his body. "Rough meeting?" I asked, my hands sliding up his back. "Angelo fucked up a shipment. Cost us $500,000 and pissed off our suppliers." He pulled back enough to look at me, and I saw exhaustion in those dark eyes. "I had to make an example, had to show strength even though all I wanted was to be here with you." "What kind of example?" He hesitated, clearly debating how much to tell me. "Angelo's been with the family for 10 years. Good soldier, loyal, but he got careless, let a rival family intercept our delivery." His jaw tightened. I broke 3 of his fingers. Could have been worse. Should have been worse. But I showed mercy because of his history. I should have been horrified, should have pulled away, run for the elevator, called the police. Instead, I found myself asking, will he be okay? He'll heal, and he'll never make that mistake again. Dante cupped my face, thumb stroking my cheekbones. "Does this disgust you? Knowing what I do, what I'm capable of?" "It should," I admitted. "But I can't judge you for violence when violence is all I knew growing up. At least yours has rules, has purpose. My stepfather just hurt people because he could." Something shifted in his expression. Understanding, maybe, or recognition. "We're both damaged, aren't we? Maybe that's why this works. We understand each other's scars." He kissed me then, soft and searching, like he was trying to memorize the taste of me. When he pulled back, some of the exhaustion had faded from his eyes. "Stay tonight," he murmured. "Not for sex. I remember your condition about going slow, but just stay. Let me hold you. Let me fall asleep knowing you're safe and here and mine." The request was so vulnerable, so at odds with the man who'd just broken someone's fingers, that I couldn't refuse. "Okay." Relief washed across his face. He took my hand and led me inside, through the sterile living room to a bedroom that was surprisingly personal. The bed was massive, king-sized and covered in soft gray linens. Books lined one wall, actual paper books with worn spines. A photo on the nightstand showed a younger Dante with an older couple. His parents, I guessed. "Bathroom's through there," he said, gesturing to a door. "I'll find you something to sleep in." I went into the bathroom, marble and chrome, a shower big enough for 4 people, and stared at my reflection. My carefully applied makeup was still perfect, my dress still immaculate, but my eyes looked different. Older, somehow, like I'd aged years in a single evening. When I emerged, Dante had changed into black sleep pants and nothing else, and I tried very hard not to stare at the expanse of muscled chest, the tattoos that covered his left shoulder and ribcage, a saint and a demon locked in eternal combat. He handed me one of his shirts, soft cotton that smelled like him, and turned his back while I changed. The gesture was surprisingly gentlemanly for a man who'd told me he wanted to possess me completely. We climbed into bed from opposite sides, and for a moment we just lay there in the darkness. the city lights filtering through the curtains, casting everything in shades of blue and gray. "Come here," he said quietly, and I moved into his arms, my head on his chest where I could hear his heartbeat. His hand stroked my hair, and I felt him relax by degrees. "Tell me about your mother," he said after a while. "Before she got sick, she was soft." "Too soft for the world," my grandmother used to say. I traced patterns on his chest, over the tattoos. She believed in love conquering all, in second chances, in seeing the best in people. It made her an easy target for men like my stepfather. "Do you resent her for staying with him?" I did, for a long time. I was so angry that she chose him over me, over her own safety. I paused, old pain surfacing. But then I grew up and understood it wasn't that simple. She was trapped. Financially, emotionally, psychologically. Leaving would have meant starting over with nothing, and she didn't think she could do it. But you did. Started over with nothing. I didn't have a choice. When she died, it was leave or drown in that town and all its memories. I looked up at him. "What about your parents?" "The photo on your nightstand." His hand stilled in my hair. "My father was old school. Built his empire through respect and fear. Taught me everything I know about this business. He died of a stroke 5 years ago. Quick, mercifully." His voice roughened. "My mother followed 6 months later. Broken heart," the doctor said. "But I think she just didn't want to live without him." They loved each other. Obsessively. They met when they were 16, married at 18, spent 40 years together. He was quiet for a moment. "My father told me once that when you find the person who makes the world make sense, you hold on with everything you have. You protect them, provide for them, worship them. Nothing else matters." Is that what you want? That kind of obsessive love? I never did before. It seemed like a weakness, something that could be exploited. His arms tightened around me. "But then you walked into my life, and suddenly I understand what he meant. This need to keep you close, to know you're safe, to make you mine in every way possible. It's consuming. Probably unhealthy. Definitely dangerous. But Christo, Lily, I can't fight it." I should have been scared by the intensity in his words. Instead, I felt safe, wanted, cherished in a way I'd never experienced. "What happens now?" I whispered. "Tomorrow, next week, next month. What does this life look like? Tomorrow you move out of that apartment. I'll have my people pack your things, find you somewhere safer." He must have felt me tense because he added quickly, "Your own place, if that's what you want. But somewhere with security, somewhere I don't have to worry about every shadow. That's not going slow. That's keeping you alive." His voice went hard. "By now, word has spread that you're under my protection. That makes you valuable, which makes you a target. I won't negotiate on your safety, Lily. Not ever." I wanted to argue, to insist on my independence, but Gabriella's words echoed in my mind. "Every enemy he's ever made will see you as leverage." "Okay," I said finally, "but I pick the place, and I'm keeping my job." "Not at Giovanni's. It's too exposed, too public." Before I could protest, he continued, "But I own several legitimate businesses, art galleries, a bookstore, a coffee shop. You could work at any of them. No questions asked. That's not earning it. That's charity. It's protecting my investment." His tone was matter of fact. "You want to finish your degree? Fine. You want to work? Fine. But you do it somewhere I can keep you safe. That's the compromise, Tesoro. Take it or leave it." I recognized the finality in his voice. This was non-negotiable. "The bookstore," I said after consideration. "I like books." I felt him smile against my hair. "Done. I'll have the manager expect you Monday." We lay in comfortable silence, his heartbeat steady under my ear, his hand tracing lazy patterns on my back. I should have felt trapped, smothered by his protectiveness. Instead, I felt safe, wanted, like I'd finally found a place where I belonged. "Dante?" I said sleepily. "Thank you. For tonight. For being honest. For not pushing." He tilted my face up and kissed me, slow and deep. "Sleep, Tesoro. We have time. All the time in the world to figure this out." I drifted off in his arms, surrounded by his scent and warmth, and for the first time in years, I didn't have nightmares. 3 months passed like a fever dream. Dante kept his word. I moved into a renovated loft in a secure building, all exposed brick and high ceilings and windows that actually locked properly. He didn't push me to move in with him, though I saw the restraint it cost him every time he left my place in the morning. The bookstore job was perfect. Quiet, civilized, surrounded by stories instead of the chaos of restaurant service. My manager, an older woman named Catherine, knew exactly who'd arranged my employment, but treated me like any other employee, which I appreciated more than she knew. My life transformed in ways both obvious and subtle. I finished my degree online, the financial pressure finally lifted. I made new friends, carefully vetted by Gabriella, though she tried to be subtle about it. I learned to recognize the security that always shadowed me, to accept that privacy was a luxury I'd traded for safety, and Dante was everything. Intense, possessive, surprisingly tender. We had dinner together most nights, either at his place or mine. He taught me about his world in careful increments, the politics, the alliances, the unspoken rules that kept the peace. I met his inner circle, Gabriella, who'd become something like a friend, Angelo, whose healing fingers testified to Dante's mercy and brutality in equal measure, Marco, his cousin, who treated me with careful respect. We went slow, as I'd requested. Dante courted me with a single-minded focus that was both thrilling and terrifying. Flowers appeared at my apartment weekly. He remembered every small detail I mentioned, my favorite coffee order, the author whose new book I was anticipating, the childhood memories that still made me smile. He kissed me breathless but never pushed for more, though I could feel the leashed desire in every touch, every heated look. I was falling in love with him, had probably been falling since that first night. But now it was undeniable, consuming. The kind of love that rewrote everything I thought I knew about myself. It was a Saturday morning when everything changed again. I was working at the bookstore, shelving new arrivals in the fiction section, when the door chimed. I looked up automatically, prepared to offer my usual greeting, and froze. The man who entered was everything Dante wasn't. Blonde where Dante was dark, slight where Dante was powerful, expensively casual where Dante was lethally elegant, but his eyes held the same calculation, the same predatory awareness. "Lily Mitchell?" he said, his accent placing him as old money New England. Every instinct screamed danger. "I'm sorry, can I help you find something?" "I think you can." He moved closer, and I noticed 2 men flanking him, security, just like Dante's. "My name is James Castellano. I believe you know my sister, Sophia." The world tilted. Castellano, Isabella's last name. This was Sophia's brother, which meant, "You're Marco's brother-in-law." The words came out flat. Was. Marco no longer in the picture, thanks to your boyfriend. His smile didn't reach his eyes. "I'm here because we have a mutual problem, Miss Mitchell. Dante Moretti has overstepped, and I need your help correcting the situation." "I don't know what you're talking about." My hand moved subtly toward the panic button Catherine had installed under the counter, connected directly to Gabriella's phone. "Don't!" James's voice sharpened. "I'm not here to hurt you. I'm here to make you an offer. A way out of the life Dante's trapped you in. He hasn't trapped me in anything, hasn't he? You moved from your home, changed your job, accepted his protection. You're isolated from everyone you knew before him, surrounded by his people, living in an apartment he pays for." James leaned against the counter, casual but threatening. "That's not love, Miss Mitchell. That's possession. And I can free you from it. I don't want to be freed. Even knowing what he is? What he's done?" James pulled out his phone, scrolled through something, then turned the screen toward me. "This is what Dante Moretti did to my brother-in-law. Look at it." I didn't want to, but my eyes dropped automatically. The photo showed a man, barely recognizable as human, bruised and broken and barely alive. My stomach churned. "Marco was a piece of shit who beat his wife," I said, forcing steel into my voice. "This is what happens to men who hurt women in Dante's world, is it?" James's smile turned cold. "Or is this what happens to anyone who crosses the great Dante Moretti? How long until you disappoint him, Lily?" How long until you become inconvenient? Get out. My hand finally hit the panic button. Get out of my store right now. I'm trying to save you. She told you to leave. Dante's voice cut through the tension like a blade. He stood in the doorway, backlit by morning sun, and he looked like violence personified. Gabriella flanked him on one side, Angelo on the other, both armed and ready. James straightened, but he didn't look afraid. Moretti, how predictable. Come running the moment your pet is threatened. She's not my pet. Dante moved into the store with predatory grace, and I saw James's security tense. She's mine, my woman, under my protection, and you just made a fatal mistake coming here. Did I? James gestured to me. Ask her, Dante. Ask her if she's really happy being your prisoner. Ask her if she understands what being yours actually means. Dante's eyes cut to me, and I saw uncertainty there, rare and painful to witness. Lily? This was it, the moment of choice. I could walk away, take James's offer of freedom, return to my small life without danger or darkness. I could be safe. Or I could choose the man who'd shown me that safety wasn't the same as living. I'm exactly where I want to be, I said clearly, moving from behind the counter to stand beside Dante, and you need to leave. Now. Relief and possessive triumph flashed across Dante's face. His arm came around my waist, pulling me close. James's expression darkened. You're making a mistake. When this ends badly, and it will, don't say I didn't warn you. It won't end badly, Dante said, his voice dropping to that deadly quiet. Because if you or anyone from the Castellano family comes near her again, I'll burn your entire organization to the ground. Sophia is under my protection because Marco failed as a husband and you failed as a brother. Isabella is safe because I made it so. You have no leverage here, James. No power, just a lot of misplaced anger that you're about to swallow, or I'll help you choke on it. The standoff stretched for endless seconds. Then James smiled, cold, calculating, dangerous. We'll see, Moretti. The city is changing, your time is ending. He headed for the door, pausing in the threshold. And Miss Mitchell? When this falls apart, don't come looking for my help. You chose your cage. You can die in it. Then he was gone, his security trailing behind. And I released a breath I didn't know I'd been holding. Are you all right? Dante turned me to face him, hands framing my face, eyes searching mine with desperate intensity. Did he hurt you? Touch you? I'm fine. He just talked. My hands covered his, and I felt them trembling slightly. Dante, what was that about? Why would he come here? Because I humiliated his family when I dealt with Marco. Because he sees you as my weakness. His jaw tightened. He's not wrong. You are my weakness, Lily, my only one. And that makes you invaluable to my enemies. Then maybe we should... No. The word was absolute. Don't even suggest walking away. I can't. I won't. Ince. He pulled me against his chest, and I felt his heart racing. Cristo. When Gabriella called and said James was here, I thought I'd lose you. You won't lose me. I looked up at him, seeing past the dangerous boss to the man underneath. I chose you, Dante. In front of him. In front of everyone. I chose this life. Chose you. And I'm not running. Something broke in his expression, relief, and love, and desperate need all tangled together. He kissed me there in the bookstore, in front of Gabriella and Angelo and anyone who might be watching. Kissed me like I was oxygen and he'd been drowning. Marry me, he said against my lips, and my heart stopped. What? Marry me. He pulled back enough to look at me, and I saw he was completely serious. I know it's fast. I know we said slow, but Cristo, Lily, I love you. I'm completely, obsessively, irrevocably in love with you. And I want the world to know you're mine. I want my name and my ring and my protection branded on you so thoroughly that men like James never question it again. Dante, that's insane? Too much? He cupped my face, thumbs stroking away tears I didn't know I'd shed. Probably. But I don't care. I want to wake up next to you every morning. I want to build a life with you, have a family with you, grow old with you. I want everything, Tesoro. and I want it to start right now. I should have said it was too fast, too intense, too much too soon. Should have asked for time to think, to process, to be rational. Instead, I said, yes. His smile was blindingly beautiful. Yes? Yes, I'll marry you. Yes to everything. I laughed, giddy and terrified and absolutely certain. I love you too. God help me. I love you so much it scares me. He kissed me again, deeper this time, claiming and celebrating in equal measure. Behind us, I heard Gabriella mutter something in Italian that made Angelo laugh. Boss, Gabriella said after a moment, her tone pointed. We should move this celebration somewhere more secure. Dante pulled back reluctantly. She's right. Come on, we're going to my place. Catherine, he called to my manager, who'd been watching from the back room with wide eyes. Lily's done for the day, and possibly the week. Dante, I can't you just agreed to marry a mob boss, Tesoro. Your life is about to change significantly. His grin was wicked. Might as well start now. The wedding happened 2 weeks later, small, intimate, just family and close associates in the garden of Dante's estate. A property I hadn't even known he owned until he took me there to plan the ceremony. Sophia and Isabella came, both glowing and healthy and safe. Gabriella stood as my maid of honor, which seemed absurd until I realized she'd become one of my closest friends. Angelo gave me away, which made both of us cry. I wore a simple white dress, elegant, understated, nothing like the elaborate gowns I'd seen in magazines. Dante wore a black suit that made him look like sin incarnate when he slid the ring onto my finger, a simple platinum band with a single diamond. I felt the weight of the promise it represented. I'm going to love you until my last breath, he vowed, his voice low enough that only I could hear. I'm going to protect you, worship you, give you everything I have. You're my wife now, Lily, my partner, my equal, my everything. And you're mine, I said, meaning it with every cell of my body, my husband, my protector, my home. We kissed to applause and whistles, and I felt complete in a way I'd never experienced. This dangerous, complicated, intense man was mine, and I was his, completely. The reception was a blur of champagne and dancing and well wishes from people whose names I struggled to remember, but I didn't care. I only had eyes for Dante, who never left my side, who touched me constantly like he needed to reassure himself I was real. Late in the evening, we slipped away from the party, up to the master bedroom of his estate. Our estate now, he'd insisted. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooked the garden, where fairy lights twinkled like fallen stars. I have something for you, Dante said, pulling a folder from his desk. Wedding present. I opened it, confused, and found legal documents. It took me a moment to understand what I was looking at. This is the deed to a women's shelter. I looked up at him, tears blurring my vision. Dante, this is yours, fully funded, staffed, ready to open next month. He came to me, brushing away my tears with gentle thumbs. You said you wanted to help women like your mother. Women trapped in situations they can't escape. So now you can. This is your purpose, Tesoro, your project. Your way of making the world a little less dark. I couldn't speak, could only throw my arms around him and hold on tight, overwhelmed by the depth of understanding in this gesture. I love you, I managed finally. God, Dante, I love you so much. Show me, he said, voice going dark and heated. We've gone slow long enough, Tesoro. Show me how much you love me. So I did. I kissed him with all the love and passion and desperate need I'd been holding back for months. I let him undress me slowly, worshipfully, his hands and mouth exploring every inch of skin he revealed. I did the same to him, tracing his scars and tattoos, claiming him as thoroughly as he was claiming me. When we finally came together, it was perfect, intense and overwhelming and exactly right. He moved inside me with controlled power, his dark eyes never leaving mine, and I felt the last walls between us crumble. Mine, he growled against my neck as we both shattered. Always mine. Always, I agreed, and meant it. 6 months later, I stood in the women's shelter, Haven House, we'd named it, and watched as another woman walked through the doors with her children, scared but hopeful. I thought of my mother, wished she could have had a place like this, wished she could see me now. Mrs. Moretti? One of the counselors approached. The new resident needs intake paperwork. Mrs. Moretti. I still wasn't used to it, still felt a small thrill every time someone used the name. I'll handle it, I said, moving to help the woman whose eyes were too familiar, whose story I already knew by heart. That evening, I came home to find Dante in his office, surrounded by papers and tension. Business had been complicated lately. James Castellano was making moves, trying to undermine Dante's control. But we faced it together, partners in every sense of the word. "How was your day?" he asked, pulling me into his lap, breathing deep like my scent centered him. "We helped 3 more women today, got 2 kids enrolled in school." I ran my fingers through his hair, feeling him relax. "How was yours?" "Long. Complicated. Better now that you're here." He kissed my neck, my jaw, my lips. "I have news. Good or bad? Depends on your perspective." He pulled back enough to meet my eyes, and I saw nervousness there, rare for him. "We're going to need to convert one of the guest rooms, maybe 2, eventually." My heart stopped. "Dante, are you saying you're pregnant, Tesoro? About 8 weeks, according to the doctor." I stared at him, the words not quite computing. Pregnant. A baby. Our baby. How do you... I haven't even... You've been sick in the mornings. You fell asleep at 7 last night. You cried during a commercial about puppies. His smile was tender. "I had Gabriella put a pregnancy test in your bathroom 2 days ago. You haven't noticed it yet, but I've been waiting to tell you what we both already know." I should have been angry he'd figured it out before me, that he'd arranged things without asking. Instead, I felt joy bubble up inside me, bright and overwhelming. "We're having a baby. We're having a baby." He cupped my face, and I saw everything I felt reflected in his eyes. "Are you happy?" "I'm terrified," I admitted, "and excited, and so happy." I kissed him deeply. "I love you, Dante Moretti. I love you more than life, Lily Moretti." He stood, lifting me with him, carrying me toward our bedroom. "Let me show you exactly how much." And he did, thoroughly and repeatedly, until I fell asleep in his arms, surrounded by safety and love and the promise of the future we were building together. Outside our window, the city sprawled beneath us, full of danger and darkness and possibility. But inside, we had everything we needed, each other, our love, our growing family, the life we'd chosen together. It wasn't the safe, boring existence I'd imagined for myself. It was better. It was real. It was ours. And I wouldn't change a single thing.